Welcome back to Small Business Accelerate. This is session 3, communicating your sales message. We're excited that you can join us. We are in this first part of our 4 steps to growth, evaluating and understanding deeply our current market. We've worked through defining the market problem, understanding your value proposition. Now it's about communication of that proposition through a sales message. But first, remind me a little bit about what you learned. I hope you're excited because now you're getting to hear from your actual customers why they love you. And this is always a really good part. How do you create superior delight in your customer's experience through your product or your service? I bet that was exciting to hear. Really relate to us. What are those specific things about the experience that was really awesome in your customers' minds? What did they love most? Also, this is that links right directly with that superior delight. But also, what are the things they could just do without? What are things they wish you would change? This is deep understanding so you can really optimize and target your product and service and messaging to your customer segment. What tempts them to want to stop using your product or service and use an incumbent product, a competitor product, or just stop using this type of service all on its own? What's the temptation? How can you address it? What surprised you? What did you go in with a mindset thinking that you understood, but your customer showed you something that was, wow, I learned something? Can't wait to hear what came from your customer interviews and your social media outreach. We're going to discuss how you win. This is key to a sales message. It starts with the idea of competition. Competition can be between products or brands, such as Starbucks versus Dunkin' Donuts, or it could be in an ecosystem for customer access through partnerships and channels, suppliers, and access. Costa's relationship to restaurants, online, different forms is a great example of how they create an ecosystem of sales into the environment. So let's talk about coffee competition. Again, we're back to my favorite topic of a good cup of joe. Now let's discuss this. First, we can look at brands. And this is an example in the US or in Europe, the different brands that dominate in terms of outlets in 2017. So you can begin to look at numerical engagements and how that differs between different places. You also can look at market share with regards to sales. So this allows you to understand even locally or within a nationwide list, who is your competition? In other words, who has the most customers, who has the most sales, who has the most recognition? This could be likes on Facebook. This could be reviews on Yelp. This could be references in other types of referral services like Angie's List. What is the dominant competition for you? We also can look, as we mentioned, in social media. We can look at how coffee brands are represented and referred to on Twitter. You can do searches and begin to understand who is referenced most in your local market on Twitter, on Snapchat, on Facebook, or other different sources. You can look at who is represented most within outlets or channels such as restaurants or cafes. Who has their product most in front of the customer segments you want to reach. And finally, you can look at the actual product and services that may be being sold through sales channels online, if it's products or services. This can be measured, like I said, with Angie's List, Yelp, web services, etc. Understanding how competition is working at the sales point as well as at the communication point in social media is key. Viewing competition within these segments, you can see that there's different ways can win or not win if we're looking at local shops for coffee, where flavor and experience may be the dominant element, or in chains, where efficiency and consistency may be the key values and benefits, or at a restaurant, where we want to give an elevated experience, a longer experience. What does that look like for your product? Or at a convenience store, when price and access and ease is the driver, not quality. Think about your various segments. Who are you looking to fight for and target compared to your competition? Where can you win the best? Think about coffee. It can tell you a lot about how your business can work. So, who are your competitors? Think about this in brand, recognition, and reputation. Write those down. Who dominates or competes with you? What is the customer reach strategy that's most used by your competitors? Is it social media? Is it advertising, radio, TV, online? Or are they using other approaches? How do they reach their customers best? How do they compete with you in your targeted segment? Again, now, do they look at the same market segment? What are the features they offer, the benefits they give, the locations they allow people to sell and provide? This could be a online source, or it could be a brick and mortar source. Where's their storefront? How do people buy? And what is the customer experience? How do you compare? You may need to go ask people who use your competitor's product, why? What do they love about it? What do they not like about it? And how you can best compete with them. So, competition overview. Consider the relationship between the product features you have and the product features that they have, and the customer benefits that are offered by each. You may want to look at performance, quality, price, durability, image or style, name recognition or reputation, customer service, convenience, location for access online or in brick and mortar, customer relationships and access. All of these aspects drive decision-making and superior delight in the minds of your customers. Some combination of these elements equals value to your customers. Where do you win best? Where can you outcompete? Give evidence. And if you put numbers on it based on the experiences and comments based on social media or in-person interviews, the better. Now, incumbents are also competitors. Let's talk a little bit about the difference. Incumbents can be current practice, which may offer no solution to their problem, or current practice that is an inadequate solution, but just commonly used. Incumbents really are this common practice. It's just fine to work with. It is really customers solving with their knack, basically how they know how to just scurry together and work together into a solution. How do they create those solutions? How can you distinguish yourself among those current practices with the users in your market segment of choice? Again, examples of areas you may want to look at. Can you outperform them? Do you provide greater quality? Can you provide quality at a price ratio that really makes sense for a switch? Is your solution more durable, resilient? They don't have to fix it often. Is you offer better customer service, more convenience, better relationships? Why should they stop doing what they're currently doing and choose to do something with you by buying or engaging in your product or service? Again, a combination of these gives you value. Where are you best? Give evidence. This leads us to now the next piece. Once you understand why you can win competitively against external competitors and incumbents and the practice that people normally have to solve their problems, we now need to persuade them to actually engage with you as your product. We call this, of course, entrepreneurial persuasion. I love this quote by Goethe. Few are open to conviction, but the majority of men are open to persuasion. Now you may be asking, what's the difference between the two? Persuasion's goal is to influence others, not to try to beat them over the head and try to make them adopt your point of view. We do this by changing their attitudes about a subject, their beliefs or understanding about that subject, behavior toward that subject. It starts with this, and hopefully it ends with a relationship. Influence to reinforce an audience's existing attitudes, beliefs, or is one of the most important ways to go. Understanding what's in the back of their mind and bringing it to the forefront of their mind that supports your argument. Now, as Arnold would say, persuasion, because sometimes saying please is not enough. Yes, but we don't have a large rocket launcher. We need to do this through words and messages and images. So people change when you impact their minds, when they receive credible information about a subject that resonates with what they know is true. Their experiences, when they directly experience something that changes how they view a subject. And finally, their behavior, when they see that how two outcomes previously viewed as opposing can be simultaneously accomplished. In other words, how that now and that wow can be solved and experienced through one engagement, such as buying your product or engaging with your service. Our goal is to not tell people, but persuade them. We do this through a process called synchresis. This is not to ignore differences in needs of our customers and our needs, but it's to actually reframe arguments where we find mutually beneficial outcomes in arguments. So in other words, we're not trying to bang them over the head. We're trying to lead them into areas where we agree and they agree. This is why it's so important to understand what they value in a minimum solution and what they value in your product the most. That becomes the ground of the persuasive argument. So I don't just give information, but I encourage people to process that information for change to occur. Again, I minimally need this. You offer it, and you offer this great experience. Therefore, we have this discussion that means we can work together. This leads to a change that resists fading or counterattack. Every advertisement, every Facebook notice, every Yelp review can really influence whether your customers will want to adopt a competitive product or stick with you. So you really have to win at that point. So how do you do this? Well, this process has been going on for a lot of years. Aristotle taught us about how logos, pathos, and ethos are key to a good argument. Ethos is that credibility, that trustworthiness of a speaker. We've learned very much authoritative, compelling messages that are also true win in the long run. People understand when you're giving them credible information and they want to cooperate with that. Pathos is this emotion, this encouragement to link into beliefs and values that are shared. It motivates passion and movement. And finally, logos. This is logic. This is clarity of an argument. It says that my trustworthiness and my emotional appeal are united in purpose, and it gives an understandable and justifiable action plan that engages my passions, but also my mind. So we're working with both the mind and the emotions of the heart to link them into the logic of action. So, as Simon Sinek talked about, how do we sell from the why? So we have different ways we can argue. Why we do something, how we do something, or the what we are doing. What is often the features we're offering. The why often links into that deep customer benefit. And the how is really that gap, as we talked about now, wow, how, of linking the feature to the benefit in a beneficial manner. Simon Sinek argues always sell from the why. This really goes back to how our brain works. So this is your brain-ish. The neocortex, this thing that makes us really, really human, is really what focuses on the what and the how. It's very logic and data oriented, rational, all focused in language. Really important to know. This is where a lot of our ethos and our logos work. But it's the limbic system, this part of the brain that really responds in feelings and survival responses, that really affects on the why part. Feelings, our feelings of trust and loyalty, deep-seated emotions and responses are all back in this hindbrain element. So it does not even have the ability to work in the area of language. So decision-making often happens reflexively. Our loyalties and motivations without ever moving into this frontal part of our brain, rational thought and language works. This is important. Now, we really need to understand that, again, pathos plays a really key role. Finally, we need to work with the cerebellum. This is this part of the brain that takes care of our coordination, our movement, and our action. People need to pull out a wallet and give you money. This is an action. Come towards you physically, come towards you emotionally. So we need to link in this why, these deep emotions, with rational thought that doesn't disagree with that, with this idea of movement and action. Selling the why is important. It emphasizes motivation, it makes the how logical and easy, and it creates justification and rationalization about what you are selling. Again, linking those pieces together. The neocortex, the limbic system, this fact that no language is in our feeling part of the brain, and again, the cerebellum, this idea of movement and action. Okay, now how do I actually do this? First, pathos. Connect using vivid experience. Understand the problem. Let them tell their story. Show your solution to their story. Using their words, their experience helps you find common ground, and you clarifies goals that you agree with and outcomes they value. This is also how you understand joint timelines and measurements in larger projects that are not just a specific product or service. So again, vividly connecting that with pathos is the first step. Ethos. Using stories and data to establish credibility, providing clear references of authority, linking fact, your data, with their problem and experience. This agrees to a common model. Their emotions says, I want a solution. You say, I offer something that is a solution that fits with what their emotional requirements are. And finally, logos. Show how the buying experience of mutual success occurs. They win when you win. Help the partners see that there's a benefit from working together, how reciprocity is involved in the process, how we both work together to win, especially if we're working on larger projects together. Defining that reciprocity of creation is important. Defining concrete how to win, and looking for an agreement in action. That could be a purchase, it could be a contract, it could be a long-term relationship. So, now we're at our homework session. How do you communicate your sales message? We had a chance to talk about competition in the form of external competition and incumbent practice. We've looked at how you can win that battle with understanding how you sell from the why, connecting emotions with intelligence and logic in a rational strategy and that links how buying your product solves a problem and creates benefit mutually experienced. So let's talk about this. First, we want to review our competition. We're back here with this minimum product requirements. This is from homework 1. You'll list those pieces there. I put 4 elements there. You can always add more. This is what you must have, okay? Now, what I want you to say is, with these common elements, how did your customers value your product? Was it a +3? Woohoo! woo! Was it a -3? Or was it a 0? I could do with it out or not. How did you rate with those 4 minimum requirements? Now, ask some customers, the same customers or others, how does your competitor rate? How do they rate with that? Is it +3? Is it -3? Or is it 0 in the middle? Okay? Want to find that piece, all right? This allows us to understand that competitive aspect. Now talk to other customers about how they work with incumbents. What do they do today? When they're not working with your customers, they're not working with you, what is that common knack practice? How does it rate? Is it a +3, a -3, or a 0? And finally, where do you win most? That's that differentiated value. Where does your score, where is it most highly rated compared to your competitors and your incumbents? That is a position where you can win. You can build emotional and quantitative arguments about where their experience with you +3, with your competition +1, and incumbents -2 is most disparate, the largest amount of difference. So work through this after talking with more customers about competition and taking the ratings of the minimum products requirements from homework 1 and their ratings of your product in homework number 2, add to it, again, the competitive ratings. This allows you to add a full value proposition, taking version 1 from last week and adding more. It takes defining who your customer is, what market segment they're a part of, how they're characterized by their buying, actions, and problems and needs, and how they experience their problem as it affects their life in tangible ways and economic ways. We then get in, they purchased your product or service for key reasons. Why is the highest reason? Again, that value point where your product here rates most higher than other products, the competition and incumbents. That's where you have a competitive advantage. That's what we want to highlight. This is the most important value. And this is the evidence you can give them in terms of data, comments, quotes of why you offer superior than all other competition. This is moving beyond relevancy. It allows us to have quantified value, and it finally links in this idea of unique differentiation. This is this last part. Again, moving back to the full definition of a value proposition, connecting, again, relevancy with quantified benefit, linking that finally into unique differentiation. What I want you to do after working that actual value proposition, that's the previous homework. You see all of it there in much smaller type. Now let's work on a sales message. This links together these concepts. Your product will offer specific benefits, lifestyle, economic, or other benefits. These are the key pieces that are your unique differentiation. That's where you focus. How do I link those first? My product offers these benefits. And this links into the idea of two customers like yourself. In other words, what makes those customers aggregate together into a targeted market segment? These elements here where you're defining who that market segment is and what the commonality of their problem is. This allows you to say who would receive that message. Finally, working with me is easy because I will allow you to simplify the buying process, make working with you a joy and easy experience. So it's not just I offer you a superior, unique, differentiated product to a group of people who really need it, but I'm going to make your experience really definable and better. Finally, you got to get somebody to contact you. You need to link them to your email, your phone, your physical address, your website. So in other words, your address may be your brick and mortar spot. Your website is, of course, your, quote, brick and mortar on the web. This is the E-way they get in your front door. We've learned especially the importance of sales, both in person as well as virtually. So Again, your proposed sales message describes your unique differentiation. It connects to those customers who will want to buy most from you and how they aggregate, and why working with you is a joy and a great, easy experience, and this is how they start that relationship. And again, it directly relates to the value proposition that you worked on in that final piece. So that is your homework for session 3. We hope that you connect together the fact that the problem definition, the value proposition definition, and now the sales message all links together into a very powerful, resonating message where you're selling the why to open people who really have shared value with you. They want a solution, they're looking for a solution, and they're ready to pay you for a solution. And this gives you a message that reaches them at both their emotional, intellectual, and logical points of view. I hope this is a good session. Cannot wait to hear what you learn from speaking with your customers, learning about your competition, and refining a sales message that wins in the marketplace. So until next session, this is Small Business Accelerate. Great to see you.